tonight's town hall event by United States Congressman Tonko. Before we begin, we have some housekeeping remarks to share. In the event of an emergency, please use the nearest emergency exits, which are marked with the exits. There's exits on both sides of the auditorium. In the event of an emergency, please listen to the guidance of law enforcement officials. Second, please be respectful in your questioning and interactions. Behavior that is unbecoming in a civil discussion will not be encouraged and may result in removal from the venue. Also, there's water available right at the auditorium entrance. We would also kindly remind you at this point to please silence all your electronic devices. Our restrooms are located outside of the auditorium. Once you leave the auditorium, an event staff member will be able to direct you to the nearest restroom. And here's a summary of tonight's program. We will start with some introductory remarks by Congressman Tonko. This will be followed by a session with the moderator who will ask the Congressman pre-submitted questions on behalf of attendees tonight and other community members who are unable to attend tonight or may be viewing via our live stream. Lastly, we will have a live Q&A session with questions for viewing tonight's live audience. If you indicated to our checking staff that you're interested in asking a question, you would have been handed a raffle ticket. If your ticket number is called, you will line up in the mic stand in the aisle closest to you. If you are unable for any reason to walk up to the mic stand, please raise your hand and a member of our event staff will bring a microphone to you. To respect fellow attendees and their chances of asking a question, we kindly ask that you ask just that, a question, and kindly refrain from making long statements. If you are interested in asking a question and would like a raffle ticket, please visit our checking table outside of the auditorium entrance now. To respect your time, we anticipate tonight's event ending at approximately 8 p.m. In the event that you are unable to ask a question due to time limitations, we ask that you reach out to the Congressman's office via phone, our website, tonko.house.gov, or talk to a member of our event, or wearing tags to identify us. Following which, we'll be able to give you a thoughtful reply to our question. Thank you for your cooperation, and most importantly, thank you for your presence tonight at this important event. We would also like to take this opportunity to thank the Schenectady City School District, specifically the Schenectady High School, for being a great partner and venue for tonight's event. We kindly request Superintendent of Schools, Dr. Carlos Poto, to stand and be recognized. We would also like to recognize the Board of Education of the City School District of Schenectady. If there are any members present, please rise and be recognized. Also, we would like to thank the elected and appointed officials who have chosen to spend their precious time with us tonight. Please hold your applause until the end of the list. New York State Senator Pat Bacon, the Honorable Justin Beatty, Albany County Legislator, the Honorable County Legislator Lilliard from the Albany County Legislature. We ask any other elected officials who we may have regrettably missed to identify, to stand and be recognized by tonight's audience. At this time, if you are able, please rise to the presentation of our nation's colors by the Schenectady High School's Air Force Junior Reserve Officer Training Corps College, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance and the National Anthem of the United States of America. Thank you. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please join us in welcoming to the stage the United States Representative for New York's 20th Congressional District, proudly representing our capital region in the U.S. House of Representatives, our Congressman, Tonko.
Well, good evening, everyone. Thank you for joining us in an evening of discussion and information gathering. Let me thank the Schenectady School System Superintendent Tonko and all of the staff and support groups that have enabled us to be here this evening. Thank you for hosting us. And to our JROTC color guard, thank you for the dignified approach with that color guard, and let's hear it for the land of the free and home of the brave. And happy St. Patrick's Day, everyone. So, good evening again, and thank you all for sharing your time and your thoughts with us this evening. In what has been a tumultuous couple of months for many, it's truly heartening to see so many folks out here and engaged in working within the framework of their government. To kick us off this evening, I'd like to share some opening thoughts, followed by a rather brief conversation with our fantastic moderator, Reverend Amore, and then we'll have time for an open question and answer portion. I do indeed look forward to answering as many of your questions as possible. At the outset, let me just acknowledge that I know there's a lot of frustration in the room this evening, a lot of passion in this room this evening. I feel it, I understand it, and I'm angry too. As an engineer, I got into public service to build things, to solve challenging problems, and to find common ground, to fight for the underdog, to offer a hand up for the sick, for those who are marginalized and the poor, to ensure that every human being is treated with inherent dignity and decency, regardless of race, creed, sex, gender identity, and sexual orientation. Fight for a country where healthcare is recognized as a human right. And where America can lead the world in addressing climate change and deliver green jobs for tomorrow. And also to ensure that work that is done on behalf of our families, working families, all over this country, are treated with respect and get a fair shot at their version of the American dream. At this moment, I dare say, for a great many of you in this room tonight, all of these ideals, certainly all of these hopes and aspirations that we hold for our country are currently under assault. Worse than that, it can feel like, especially with what we saw this past week in the U.S. Senate, that you have no one in your corner, no one willing to fight this fight with you. If you take nothing else away from this evening's program, if you take nothing else away from this evening's program, know this: I am in your corner. Your fight. Your fight is my fight, and I will not stop fighting for the working families of this great capital region. I will never stop fighting for the underdog and for the hopes and the aspirations that we all have for this great country. Now, just about 2 months ago, Donald Trump was sworn in as our nation's 47th president. On day one of his presidency, instead of working to lower costs, like he had promised, President Trump delivered a series of sweeping executive orders meant to distract us and divide us by ultimately consolidating power in one person, himself. He pulled us out of the Paris Climate Agreement, making us a global pariah, while halting significant renewable energy projects right here at home. He launched violent rhetorical attacks against LGBTQ+ individuals, and in particular, have implemented a government-wide approach attempting to completely erase the existence of the trans community. He pardoned hundreds of violent insurrectionists, many who had assaulted police officers, and some who have already been charged with new crimes in our community. And he even, for some reason, decided to rename the Gulf of Mexico the Gulf of America, like a child drawing on a map. He has carried out attacks on science and scientists, censoring research at agencies like the National Science Foundation and the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention, undermining crucial public health work that indeed saves lives. The effects of these and other executive orders have rippled throughout our federal government, and most notably with the empowerment of Elon Musk and his so-called Department on Government Efficiency, or DOGE. Let me be clear at the outset. No one elected Elon Musk to anything. And his attempts to unilaterally freeze spending or shut down federal agencies are not only illegal, but unconstitutional. Elon has irreparably harmed our image abroad by dismantling USAID, leaving hundreds of millions of dollars of American medicines and food for the developing world rotting in ports overseas, all to please his business partners in China. He is systematically dismantling government capacity by taking these agencies and hobbling them, like the Department of Education, which helps us support our most high-need students, or the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, which is the only federal agency specifically designed to fight for consumers against the greed of the financial industry, and has returned billions of dollars, I believe 21 billion, to be more accurate, straight up into consumers' pockets. So they have gained from this agency. Elon is on a crusade against federal employees, regardless of where they serve, even threatening to lay off more than 80,000 from the Department of Veterans Affairs, where we all know of the critical staffing needs to support our veterans. We love our veterans. I think it's an appropriate question for us to ask, why are Elon Musk and Donald Trump doing all of this? Elon Musk and Donald Trump are doing it because they want America, her people, to be distracted, divided, and dismayed. They want us pointing fingers at immigrants, at the LGBTQ+ community, and fighting over things like DEI and our foreign aid budget, so that we aren't paying attention when they cut core government services, provide massive tax giveaways to the rich, many MAGA billionaires, and sell off our state capacity to private corporations. To be clear, this is not just my opinion. They have already written legislation to put this plan into action. I sit on the House Budget Committee, a request I made of the leadership in our House, and it was granted. And where last month, House Republicans unveiled a radical Republican rip-off plan that would cut vital programs like Medicaid and SNAP by some $2 trillion to bankroll trillions more of giveaways and tax breaks for for massive corporations and mega billionaires like Elon Musk. Just think about that. Their plan is to take from the poor and the working families and give to the rich. The working families of the capital region were promised by this administration that President Trump would focus on lowering their costs on day one. Instead, he's pushing a radical plan that will rip insurance coverage away from millions of people, altogether raise health care and prescription drug costs for millions more, and increase grocery bills for working families, all to give more tax breaks to wealthy donors who simply do not need it. That's just plain wrong, and I will continue to fight this plan with every fiber of my being as it works its way through Congress. Now, the picture I just painted is indeed a bleak one of a president who is unhinged and power-hungry, a Republican-controlled Congress that is disinclined to assert itself, and a politically motivated Supreme Court that has signaled that they intend to give President Trump wide latitude. In the face of all of this, it can be easy for people to feel helpless and want to check out from politics altogether. Instead, as I have traveled across our great capital region, I've been heartened to hear that our friends and our neighbors are more engaged than ever before. As I've listened to the thousands of you who have talked to me, the number one question I've received is, what can we do to push back against this terrible agenda? First and foremost, I have a duty to speak truth to power and to not be silent as President Trump and Elon Musk take actions that are harmful to the American people. To effectively fight back against some of these actions, we have to continuously educate the public as to what is going on, and I am committed to bearing faithful witness to the actions in Washington, D.C., and reporting those actions back to you. In the past month, I've had numerous events, both here and in D.C., to highlight the reckless agenda that is being pursued. I've toured community health centers and invited a Medicaid beneficiary and an all-around great person in the name of Julie Farrar as my guest to President Trump's recent address to the joint session of Congress in Washington. This was a highlight that would impact that proposed medical cuts would have on many of our neighbors, just like Julie. I've organized discussions here in our district with illegally fired federal employees to talk about how these senseless staffing cuts will make their government, your government, less responsive and less accountable to the American people and have a corresponding negative impact on our regional economy. These were people who had their careers cut short and disrupted, some after 30 years of service. We need to speak up and speak out. In the last month, I've marched with many of you to stand up for science and for LGBTQ+ rights. I will continue to do everything I can to make certain that as many people as possible just know what's going on in Washington. In this vein, I encourage you, if you haven't done so already, to connect with me on my social media accounts, including Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and Blue Sky, with the handle at Rep. Paul Tonko, so that you can hear directly from me as your representative in Congress, responding on these important issues. I also have a weekly email newsletter that you can sign up for on my website at tonko.house.gov. I have also created resources on my website to make it clear how federal whistleblowers can be in touch with my office, as well as a Know Your Rights page for Capital Region residents to better understand their constitutional rights should they have interactions with an immigration officer. Additionally, on the communications front, sometimes to raise the visibility of these issues, we need to take direct action, which is why I've joined with a number of my Democratic colleagues in multiple protests against Musk's illegal actions in Washington, at the Environmental Protection Agency, at the Department of Education, and at the Consumer Financial Protection Bureau, all at which we raised protest to these actions. Sadly, we were denied entry to these agencies. We will never be deterred in our fight to protect essential services, however, and to shine a light on this administration's abuses of power. By continuing to speak out and through creating compelling images and stories, we can work to shift public opinion decisively against the worst excesses of Musk and Trump. Next, through the courts, we are challenging Trump's illegal executive orders and Musk's unconstitutional seizure of federal funds lawfully allocated by Congress, a strategy that is already seeing results. While not foolproof, many of Trump's executive orders and actions have already been put on hold by the courts at our request, including his attempt to end birthright citizenship and his blanket freeze on federal funding. Just last week, federal courts ordered this administration to rehire thousands of illegally fired federal workers. To be clear, there are some terrible actions that Trump has taken and will continue to take that are legitimate exercises of presidential power and will be validated by our courts. But we will continue to pursue an aggressive litigation strategy whenever and wherever he attempts to illegally expand executive power. Now, finally, on the legislative front, while Republicans have a majority in both the House and the Senate, it's important to remember that their House majority is extremely narrow, just 218 to 213 at the present moment, and this is the narrowest congressional majority in nearly 100 years. So we have leverage. In practical terms, this means two things. First, it will continue to be difficult for Republicans to pass legislation out of the House on a party line vote. As such, this is a place where public pressure has the potential to be extremely effective, especially given the types of cuts to programs that are to come, to Medicaid, that are certainly propositions that are gaining much attention. In my congressional districts across New York, including those represented by my Republican colleagues, almost 1/4 of the population are Medicaid beneficiaries. Do my colleagues really want to be responsible for cutting health care benefits from 1/4 of their constituents? For taking coverage away from grandparents in nursing homes and moms giving birth? This is a political pressure point, and it is our job to continue to make clear the painful choices that Medicaid and other benefit cuts would entail. The second thing the narrow House majority means is that on many routine bills, including those funding the government, Republicans will need Democratic votes to pass these bills. This gives us important leverage. Unfortunately, as this past week taught all of us, having leverage is not necessarily enough. We need everyone in Congress to be willing to use leverage that they have gained. I pledge to you, I will never be afraid to use all of the leverage and all of the tools I have to stop the illegal and unconstitutional actions of Elon Musk to cut and gut our federal government. Let me repeat, I will never lend my hand to help Donald Trump and Elon Musk to tear down our government and weaken America at home and around the world. I will oppose these crooked schemes with all that I have. Let me close with this. On the last day of the Constitutional Convention of 1787, an observer asked Benjamin Franklin whether the founders had created a republic or a monarchy. Franklin replied simply, a republic, if we can keep it. The past few weeks have made one thing very clear. Our democracy is not self-sustaining. It demands vigilance. It demands engagement. It demands a collective commitment to preserving freedom and justice for future generations. We owe it to the folks that will follow us. Amidst the noise and distraction, the one thing I never forget is that as your member of Congress, I have taken a solemn oath of office to support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic. I will never betray that oath I made to you and our country. Every ounce of my being will resist and fight back on behalf of all of us, because we deserve better. The home of the free and the land of the brave didn't just happen. It took a lot of sacrifice. It took a lot of supreme sacrifice. Those who have died for this country. Many of us have immigrant ancestry in our family structure. We need to honor that legacy. They came here with every dream for a better world, and we should not end that better world dream. With that in mind, I'm deeply grateful to the thousands of you who have reached out to my office to make your voices heard. Your engagement serves as a powerful reminder that democracy depends on all of us. I am proud to continue to stand side by side with all of you as we fight together to protect our neighbors, to defend our values, and safeguard our democracy. Thank you again for joining us tonight. I thank my colleagues in government who are here this evening. Thank you for sharing your time and energy. And I look forward to the conversation next with Reverend Amari and to answering your questions. So thank you again for being here. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, at this time, please join us in welcoming the moderator of tonight's discussion, the Q&A session, a pastor, a historian, fellow resident of the Capital Region, and CEO of the Sycamore Collaborative, which has been proudly serving the Schenectady area for over half a century. Please give a warm welcome to the Reverend Amari Tonko.
Good evening, Schenectady. I'm going to ask if the house lights can be turned on for a minute. And if people have seats by then, if you could raise your hands. We have a crowd outside of people waiting to be seated. So if you could raise your hands, because you have seats by you, we're going to try to seat more people in the room. All right. I see many hands raised. Give everybody a couple of minutes to try to see more people down. I know people standing. Ah, there you go. All right. If you're standing in the room and you see a hand raised, go find a seat. All right. Look at all these democracy-loving people. All right.
You are a great picture, I can tell you that. You look beautiful. Thank you for being here.
All right. There are seats close to the door, there are seats on the far side of the door. And there are also seats on the front, even if they're reserved. They were reserved for you. So you can come all the way to the front as well. All right. All right. Thank you, Congressman Tonko, for your opening remarks. And we're here to have a town hall, so we're going to be hearing from questions from you in a couple of minutes. But there were some questions that were previously submitted, and we want to start with those. The beginning of this administration, a blitz of executive orders and firing of workers. What do you expect will be the long-term effect of President Trump and Musk's cuts in Americans' day-to-day lives?
Well, I think these are vital services that are cut, a lot of investments that are looking at a futuristic agenda with an innovation economy. There are healthcare coverages that are at risk. What bothers me most about this approach, Pastor, is that it needs to be done with a fineness that really uses a scalpel rather than wielding a cleaver. And interestingly, some of the first people that were let go were inspectors general. And it's their job, in a nonpartisan fashion. We've had them before hearings in my house, in the House of Representatives, with Republican and Democratic majorities. And they are nonpartisan. And their effort is to make certain that congressional intent is absolutely implemented, and that the ethical and economic strategies of these bills are fully put into working order. They could have advised in the best fashion as to what these cuts should look like. Instead, it's an across-the-board, tens of thousands of, and it just doesn't make sense. And when you do something like that senselessly, I mean, we all want efficiency. We wouldn't want to strive for efficiency, but we need to do it in a way that's academic, and that wasn't done. And the ripple effect is the destruction of a lot of programs, and some of it is just based on ideas of who presented those ideas when, and some of it is retaliatory, which really should be part of the process.
Speaking of the day-to-day lives of Americans, the president, when he was campaigning, said he would end inflation on day one. From your seat in Congress, how's that going?
Well, I have to say that it's a serious concern about costs not going down but going up. We have a tariff war going that is on again, off again, up, forward, backward. It's providing a bit of uncertainty and unpredictability, and that is destroying consumer confidence. So we're seeing that happening in a way that is seeing a dip in the market, huge historic dip in some ways, and just not building the economy the way we should. And there are some who are now forecasting that we could be headed towards a recession. So in a matter of a few weeks, we have seen this turnaround, and I'm concerned about the months forward where these cuts will hit home, and the service inabilities of services out there will come to bear on the individuals for which they're designed. So we have a lot of work to do, and I'm imploring them to reach the Congress. The circumventing Congress is not helpful, not the most efficient thing, and furthermore, the power of the purse rests with the House of Representatives.
Speaking of that power of the purse, recently the Congress passed a continuing resolution enshrining into law some of those cuts that Musk has been striving to put in. That resolution was passed with the support of some Senate Democrats. What is your reaction? What is your reaction to that secret agreement?
Our votes are not a secret, so people know that I voted against that plan. I thought it was I thought it was the wrong choice. What we see here is no guardrails for the Trump-Musk team, or Musk-Trump team, however we see it. And that also means that they can, there's a slush fund in that bill for them, and there's an opportunity to reorient the investments, pulling it away from some programs, investing heavily in others of their choosing, destruction on healthcare, affordability, veteran services, some in the cancer realm. It's, all I want is us to be a loving and kind nation. I don't think that's too much to ask. And our budget should reflect our values. And so I think, for those Republicans and Democrats in the Senate that voted for this bill, I thought that was the wrong choice. We had a chance to leverage here, that we had a 30-day plan that we wanted to put into effect, extend the government, still running for 30 days, and let's come to the table and nail down a good plan. Instead, the vote was on a Republican-developed plan, not one involvement of Democrats. And so that told me you can't deal with these tough times in such a partisan strategy. And then to give these people a slush fund, no guardrails, and all sorts of power. We've seen what's happening in the first few weeks. People say, well, they'll shut down the government. They're doing their best job right now of shutting down the government. It's all
Schenectady, this is your congressman, and we are here to have a conversation with him. As you were coming in, those of you who are interested in asking questions, we're giving raffle tickets. I'm going to be calling on those 6 at a time. You can see better around your hall. There are microphones at the beginning of every aisle. So if your number is called, if you could seat yourself to a mic, I'll moderate in between the mics so that we can hear some of the questions. I'm asking to please limit those questions to 1 or 2 sentences so we can give the chance to others to ask the questions. Make them questions, please. Don't make them statements. If you cannot come to one of the mics, I'm going to ask you to raise your hands, and I'm going to rely on the event staff to let me know if there's anybody on the crowd that needs to get a mic so we can wait for them. So, say it again. Lights on, please. The power of the moderator. Lights are coming on momentarily. There you go. All right. All right. Let's pull it out. All right. Let's see. 5490316. 5490316. 5490559. 5490559. 5490549. Yes, someone says that. 5490549. 5490547. 5490547. 5490443. 549, sorry. 5490443. And lastly, 5490543. 5490543. Calm down.
Pastor Amore, before we take the questions, let me thank you. I don't know if I'd want that job, but thank you for assisting us. And I want everyone to know that I think Pastor Amore does a great job in leading the efforts at Sycam and now Sycamore Collaborative, which helps feed our neighbors who are hungry and takes care of so many programs. So thank you. Thank you. And I'm just glad to thank you. Okay, to the questions.
All right. So we have 2 people online. Anyone with a number that needs a mic brought to them? No? Ma'am, the mic is yours.
Welcome.
Give me 1 minute because that mic is not on. There you go.
So my question is, what happens when and if the courts fail to stop him?
There will be every effort made. First, I hope the courts do the right thing. And there have been a lot of decisions already rendered that have been, I think, effective and appropriate. The court decisions are very relevant in this whole case. There's always a chance to go back to a legislative route. But the problem here is with this chaotic approach, things are being destroyed. Even when the courts step in and offer a stay, damage has been done, and now we have to work to undo that damage. So even when the decisions are good, there's work to be done. But we're strategizing as we go. We're looking at all sorts of alternatives if the courts decide against what we think should be denied. And that will be worked through hearings and the legislative process again. And ultimately, I hope that if we can turn around the House, at least, we will have an opportunity in the midterms in 26. But in the interim, there's a lot of hard work to be done.
Thank you. Yes.
This is on, right?
Yes.
Yes.
In a follow-up to the court question, we're already seeing evidence of court orders being ignored. But how can we compel him? I mean, it's great strategy to take him to court, but how do we compel him to follow what the judge's orders are?
Yeah. I think it's a good, certainly a good question, because they have indicated at times that they were going to, I think Vice President Vance and others, I think Musk perhaps indicated that they're not going to pay attention to the courts. That's where the public outcry, I think, will be very pertinent. I think this president does not want to look like he's avoiding the courts. If he does, you know, serious effort is going to be taken to challenge that and have the courts move even further. But what's important is that we need to respect what our framers did in our humble beginnings. They created 3 distinct branches of government, as we all know, to serve as a check and balance on all of us. And when the executive wants to concentrate all the power in one branch and in one person, in himself, we have a problem here. So, you know, it takes a lot of working and strategizing to go from here and have constitutional lawyers advise us. I'm an engineer, not a lawyer, but there will be options, I think, available to us as we go forward. Well, I think there's probably a reach to whatever cure to that disavowing of the court's decisions that's there. I'm certain that good constitutional minds can come up with the strategy that would be followed.
Thank you.
Good evening, Congressman Tonko. My name is Chelsea Spardello, and I'm Operations Supervisor for the Albany, New York Social Security Field Office. I can honestly say I am deeply alarmed by the aggressive dismantling of our agency under the DOGE direction. And many of my colleagues and coworkers agree. What are you doing to stop the dismantling of Social Security's workforce, secure adequate staffing, and ensure the agency has the resources needed to continue serving the American people, and more importantly, the people of the 20th Congressional District?
I have been speaking out very strongly on behalf of Social Security for the past several years, because we've wanted to maintain and sustain and underpin that great foundation, which is approaching, I think it's 80th anniversary. And so making certain that we address a number of the issues, the payment into the system, raising that cap, making certain that we made improvements in the Inflation Reduction Act that strengthened the Social Security system. We want to continue to do that. But there has always been, or not always, in the last several years, there's been an outright effort to move to privatize Social Security. And I oppose that effort. I think that, you know, what they're doing here with cutting all the forces as they happen, and by the way, I understand the locals are protesting every Friday at the office. My first available Friday, which might be this Friday, I'm going to be there to join you. But I think this whole act of cutting so deeply into the workforce of Social Security, closing some of the local agencies, that's going to cause a ripple effect of pain for everyone who's a recipient. Might be a delayed check, it might just, whatever, it's just going to make the system weaker. And I think that those efforts to cut the agency, the staff-wise, to have it poorly performed. I know that there have been other rearrangements that they have done that have tested the strength of Social Security. I think they're setting it up for failure, and we're going to fight very hard against these efforts. It is, you know, people say, I think I heard Mr. Musk call it pardon me? Absolutely. And I think we understand that it is an earned benefit. People have paid into this system. It's nothing other than an earned benefit. And I think the political forces that arranged this almost 80 years ago were very clever in how they did it. They had buy-in from the recipients, and we're going to use that strength and strategize with that strength to make certain it's maintained as a given right in this community of our government, and make certain that we do everything to underpin it and make it stronger.
A reminder that we're in the first round of 6. If you're a ticket holder, I'm going to be calling soon the next 6 to come up to ask questions. You know, well, you should have received a ticket, and those ones will be called. Sir.
8 words. Does this thing work? Yes. 8 words. Will you support AOC for senator?
I currently want to get us through this dilemma, and we can talk strategy on politics later into the year, but let me say, I've worked with AOC, with Alexandria. She is now seated on the Energy and Commerce Committee, where I'm seated. We're doing work together, and I admire her public service and her communication skills. But let's go forward and conquer this first battle.
Yes.
Thank you, Congressman Tonko, for tonight. I've heard Kara Swisher say that Elon Musk wants to harvest federal data to build his AI and outstrip his competitors in AI. I've heard that his real goal is he wants to become the world's first trillionaire. I read this morning that his goal is to become a kind of an emperor of a Canada, Greenland, U.S., Central American empire. The question is, we need Congress, whether it's the House of Democrats in the House of Representatives or the Democrats in the Senate, we, the citizens, need information about what the heck Elon Musk is really doing. We need to know what he's doing, we need to know why he's doing it, and we need to have some kind of convening. If he doesn't show up himself, then have 10 people who know him, his associates, gather the best experts, Kara Swisher, whoever, but we need to find out what Elon Musk is doing and how we can stop him.
Thank you.
Well, I agree totally with the sentiment. You cannot circumvent Congress. As I indicated, I have been placed recently at the start of this session to be on the Budget Committee. And that was by request of the leadership, because I just want to bring my awareness of the issues of energy, of commerce, of healthcare, mental health, behavioral health to the table on the budget discussions. So that's the purpose, according to the Constitution, of the House of Representatives. We have that power of the purse. And so I couldn't agree more with that sentiment. I find it galling that this individual who is taking that chainsaw to human lives and services and agencies would be given a huge contract for cyber trucks in the midst of all of this, and then to find out they didn't meet the standards that are required. So we need to make certain. In fact, let me tell you, when I was on the Budget Committee for our first markup of the budget bill, we introduced 32 amendments. All of them went down. The last one, the 32nd one offered, was to simply restate the Constitution and the responsibility and the authority given by our framers to the House of Representatives. And they couldn't even pass that as an amendment.
But can the Democrats outside the committee structure, can Democrats
Thank you.
convene a public hearing?
Thank you. Thank you. Ma'am.
Thank you. Actually, my question is kind of along those lines, it seems that we get Trump, Musk, and Republican colleagues dominate the media, dominate the news cycles everywhere. Is there ever a conversation within the Democratic Party leaders, the Democratic Party, about how to grab the microphone, to get on the media, to pinpoint how this administration and the Republican colleagues are actually actively working against American people? They're actively working to enrich the already grossly wealthy, and they are actively working to make America no longer a world leader, but more just a sit back and watch other countries fill in the void where we have walked away from our leadership roles. That honing of the Democratic message to inspire our voters and inspire people to turn out and vote.
Thank you.
The concept you're advancing is something I had brought to the attention of the House, to my colleagues, specifically those in charge of communicating the message. I said, we need to have a daily update with the panel as to what's going on, and they're working on that strategy, they like the idea. But through COVID, we saw a lot of states updating their constituencies about where we are, what developments were coming, what the stats look like. We need an update, routine update, as to everything that's happening, because it's like drinking out of a fire hose. They're throwing so much at the American public and at Congress that it's a distraction method, so that they get this crazy agenda done through the darkness of that distraction.
Thank you.
I don't know where the other people came from. Okay. Hi, Congressman. My name is Layla Kios. I was at your first town hall, so I appreciate you doing a second one. Thank you very much. I am your constituent. I am the proud daughter of an immigrant, and I am the chair of Indivisible Albany's organization. With a point of clarification. You had answered a question about the way in which Schumer voted, and I think you, or Senate Democrats, and I think you had said it was a poor choice. And I want to be clear, that was a betrayal of the American people. That was a betrayal of everyone in this world and the voters. First town hall, someone had asked you, where is the red line? And I don't recall your answer, sir, but we're 6 weeks beyond that now. We've got people being kidnapped off the streets for free speech. We have people being transferred to El Salvadorian gulags without due process of law. Have we reached the red line, sir? Have we reached the red line? Is the Democratic from out into the streets.
Thank you.
You know, again, there are so many fights that we're waging, and I think that the efforts here to I think that every effort is being made to make certain we stand up and be a force of resistance against so many, all of these things that are unjust, and making certain we are in solidarity. Yeah, look, I hear you about the red line. We're doing everything we can to wage these wars as quickly as we can. Remember, there's just a lot of attacks on a lot of agencies, a lot of programs. We're going forward in every effort. It's why I thought the leverage that we had this past week was so critical, so that we could force people. Excuse me, only one of us have the floor. Sir. So it's like, we will continue to pursue what is right and what is just. So we will continue to move forward.
Congressman, we will be glad to continue to address questions, but we need to do it in the order that we all agreed upon. In a country of freedom of speech, these things are allowed. And we also continue to be in conversation with and for each other. All right. Sure.
Look, I think it's so important to make certain we have humanitarian aid for all of the people of Gaza, to rebuild the destruction that has been taking place. We need to make certain we speak in the dignity and quality of life of all people in Gaza, Jew, Palestinian, from all the making certain that there is not this hostility where we're going to drive people away from their homeland, away from their land that they have called their center, their focus. We will continue to work on that by advancing and advocating for humanitarian aid. And my heart is with the people of Palestine and the people of Israel. Please, this is a civil discussion. Can I ask?
Yes, thank you.
You know, I think the orders of taking Gaza and modernizing it, investing in it, and creating a resort site type of atmosphere is ethnic cleansing in my mind. And I don't think we should allow that to happen. And, the efforts for peace, every effort for peace needs to be made. Please, this is a civil discussion.
Sure. the opportunity to be in conversation with our elected officials and holding them accountable does raise our blood pressure. But we are living in unprecedented times. And what I ask for the rest of our time together is that, as much as possible, we continue not only to ask questions of the congressman and seeking ways to holding him accountable to the things he's had pledged to do for us on our behalf, but to also give feedback to the things that he needs to be taking to Washington so that he's not speaking for himself, but he's speaking for every one of us. Okay? So,
I hate to say he's done something good for us, but we've potentially been relieved of Elise Stefanik. I hate to say that. Once she's been confirmed and her seat is open at the 21st, let's turn it blue, and I'll tell you how we can do that. If you own a piece of property in that district, or you have a child or a grandchild that goes to school in that district, in New York State, you can move your registration from your current address to another address. So if your children or grandchildren go to school up north, they can register in that district. If you own a piece of property, you can move your registration to that district. You can turn it blue. It's a super effective means of
Congressman, on the issue of the 21st district.
As a graduate of Clarkson, which is in St. Lawrence County, in the 21st Congressional District, oh good, some Clarkson fans out there. I can tell you that I spent 4 years in the community of Potsdam, and the people are salt of the earth. They appreciated the higher ed community that they are. They host Potsdam State on one side of the Racket River and Clarkson on the other. They appreciated education and higher education. They appreciated the arts and the cultural aspects that higher ed brought to the community. I know those people. They will always be cherished by me. They're deep in my heart and soul because of the 4 great years I spent there. I do not think that this agenda is what the people of the North Country want. I can't believe they're asking for this dismantling of programs, that they're asking for the impact of tariffs that really will hurt their farming community because there's so much produce exchanged over the border, especially in that seat. I don't believe they were asking for a more expensive healthcare outcome. There are 295,000 Medicaid recipients in that congressional district. I believe the highest number of all the upstate congressional seats. So this is a huge impact. This agenda is so absolutely in direct opposition of what their, I think, concerns are about. I have to believe it. And we will do all we can to insert ourselves in that effort to win that seat and make a statement to the entire nation that this is an unacceptable agenda.
Representative this out. 549-0544, 549-0544, 549-0366, 549-0366, 549-0566, 549-0566, let's see, 549-0490, 549-0490, 549-0363, 549-0363, I'm sorry, and 549-0433. 549-0433. All right, coming down to the mics. Slowly but surely. The person in the black, I'm assuming it's a black jacket. Yes.
Yeah.
There you go.
Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for hosting this town hall. It really means a lot to hear from you as your constituent. since Senator Schumer's betrayal on the Senate floor, there have been calls for him to resign as Senate Minority Leader. Would you consider yourself to be one of the people making these calls? Would you ask for Senator Schumer to step down?
Will I ask what now?
Will you ask for Senator Schumer to step down as Minority Leader?
I know the work that our House, the House of Representatives, put into leading the effort to make certain that we were united in being against that Republican-oriented plan. The Dems in the Senate needed to do likewise, I believe, because it was so important to exercise that leverage. I think that the Democrats need to huddle and figure out as we go forward, because the work only gets deeper and more difficult now. With all of the proposal now in the 26 budget, 25-26 budget, which begins on October 1st, the work being done is going to be very demanding. Deep cuts to the food and hunger elements, the deep cuts to Medicaid, deep cuts to veteran services. We need to make certain that both houses are in working order. I think the Senate needs, I'll answer the question this way, the Senate needs to take care of their business, and I think that, we've seen a lot of statements made in the last couple of days because of that vote, and they need to internalize that discussion and go forward from there. The Senate needs to determine how they go forward.
Yes. Over here, yes.
Hello, everyone. My name is Agisi. I'm from Albany. I'm a student at U Albany. And I got a question for you, Mr. Tonko. This is my first town hall, so given Elon Musk has taken, over the past decade, billions of dollars in government subsidies, can you unequivocally say that Elon Musk should not receive any more government subsidies?
I would think it's a conflict of interest already, and if we have some order of say in this effort, when Congress gets back into when they allow Congress to get back into the action that it's supposed to be doing, obviously those efforts can be made to put up a standard as that. I mean, I don't understand how we're allowing for the conflict of interest to go forward. I mean, it's very difficult when they circumvent Congress and being done from the outside and making life very complicated and complex.
How will you fight
We fight it by making certain that, again, we build popular opinion, we deal through the courts, we deal through the hearings. I have asked our leadership, the Republican leadership in the House, to hold hearings. They're not even willing to do that. We want them to bring some of these appointees to the table so that we can quiz them. They have control of this whole process. This is a unique situation with a chaotic team that is going forward. So we're learning as we go. And there are many dynamics in our favor, including the conflict of interest that surrounds Mr. Musk.
Thank you. Now.
Hi, Congressman. My name is Carol Bieber. So we know that Trump is very anti-blue state, pro-red state. It was very disconcerting when there were the fires in California and the hurricanes to South Carolina. And South Carolina, yep, you got money, and California, you have stipulations. And Mike Johnson was pro-stipulations also in order to get the money. I'm really concerned, being a retired teacher, about the education and the closing of the, dismantling the education department. How can you be sure that we will get the money that we're supposed to get, whether it is education, whether it's FEMA or anything else, with no stipulations? How can you be sure that we can do that can happen?
Right. Well, the appropriate way to do it is through the Ways and Means Committee and the Education Committee, Education and Labor Committee. But we're still trying to bring them to the table. I specifically asked for the meeting in letter format and then in a personal visit to the department to sit down with the then acting Secretary of Education to get the very answers to the questions you just shared. And I think it's important. Title I is a very important element of funding to our schools. It's the most important that students need in the classroom. I want to know where that's going to be housed, if it's going to be housed at all, if there's an end to Title I or not, what we're doing with our libraries and museums, what we're doing with a number of the programs for the disabled students, the IDEA formula. So all of this needs to have answers to the questions. We're still pounding on the doors. We're still calling the secretary to answer the letter that was sent her way. So we'll continue to do that and make certain that there's no changes in terms of, as they relate to favoritism by blue state, red state, or what have you. But this is an administration that's very retaliatory, and we have to make certain we call them out on it and embarrass them and get the public voices raised against their actions.
Thank you.
Welcome.
Yeah. I have a question. You said you would give updates because of the media and everything else, and they have Caroline Levitt come out all the time, and she's selected certain press. Sorry, I'm short. Sorry. Selected certain press that can, attend the White House briefing thing, and she lies constantly. Now, and a lot of the mainstream media has picked up and joined that side. So I always see, you said earlier to look for updates on X. Do you have to deal with Elon Musk's thing because he just silences everybody anyway? Twitter, whatever.
Well, we're reaching out to any new technology that's out there, including Blue Sky and a number of other sources, making certain we're taking advantage of all the technology. But I think a daily update on where we're at, or at least a couple of times during the week, would go a long way to inform people and ignite the passion.
How would the people see it? How would the people see that update? On what? Where?
We're sharing the information however we can, through the media, through newsletters. Well, I think we're reaching out to a lot of tech out there that I may mention in my opening comments, but we'll ramp that up however we can to make certain that every move we make is being recorded and shared on technology. I hear you.
I'm sorry. Please let me. I'm going to leave right after this. I know you work very hard to deal with the opioid crisis and everything else. Is there something that Democrats can do? I know dealing with all this other stuff is annoying and you have to, but is there things that you can do to actually help people that are addicted and everything else? Can you give bills passed and that sort of thing? I know. Well, it just seems like all the Democrats are just fighting back and fact checking and trying to get that, calm people down. You guys can still do stuff, right?
Yeah, there are bills being introduced, but the majority decides what bills get assigned to committee, which committee, and to the floor.
I understand how government works. I understand all that, but when you propose something with fentanyl, Donald Trump is supposedly trying to tackle fentanyl. So why is couldn't that be something to get done?
Thank you.
I know.
How are they getting help with the opioid crisis? One thing we've done, I did a MAD Act.
It doesn't work.
That will increase the amount of prescribers for the people living with the illness of addiction. And that will provide for a lot of hope and opportunity, I believe.
But it doesn't. What you guys have been doing for 20 years is not working.
Thank you.
All right, I'm done.
Sir.
My name is Merton Simpson, and I'm the Albany County Legislator for District 2. and I have a tactical question. Last Friday, I was at a rally at the Leo O'Brien building where IRS and Social Security workers were laid off. And the February 7th meeting led by Maxine Waters and 29 other legislators, including yourself, where one security guard with either an Italian knit or polo shirt kept you out. We need to have tactics that are much more strident than that, so that the hearts and minds of the masses of the people, which is the only way we're going to be effective, can be inspired. And when Al Green was shuffled out of the legislature, do you think that maybe in the future it would have been more tactically effective for all the Democrats to walk out with him? Non-violent coup d'etat in the history of the world, can you consider some out-of-the-box thinking that's as strong as Can you consider a public relations strategy that's at least half as strong as the effort to oust Joe Biden in terms of Elon Musk? Donald Trump? I'm saying that this is a life and death existential struggle, and the people need to see that you're responding to that level of intensity.
And I think it's pointed that way, with all the activity going on. I think the strategies that are building toward that effort obviously are growing with the time. And more efforts are being made to make certain there's a structured response to everyone so that we can go forward with a sensible reform for efficiency. We don't need these kind of cuts, and we need to support the voices that are speaking out against it, and it's getting structured more and more with time.
Yes, ma'am.
Hi. At the risk of getting big applause here, I'm a Canadian immigrant. I have been out on the streets in the North Country protesting with my fellow Americans in the North Country. And we understood, I want to follow up on the gentleman that spoke earlier, we understood that you were going to maybe come up north and replace Elise Stefanik in a town hall that we were hoping was going to go viral, because we've seen what happens when Democrats come to Republican districts. So we were very excited about that. Maybe it was a rumor. Was it a rumor? Will you still come up to the North Country? And while I have the mic, I think that moment has passed for a lot of people. Even me as a Canadian, I'm ready to go home and fight hard for my country. We saw what Vermont did to J.D. Vance. I mean, people are angry, and they're ready to hit the streets, and the grassroots is here. Where is the call from Congress to get people in the streets?
Neighbors to the north, and there was many a time at a college hockey game in Clarkson where we did both, always did both anthems, and it kind of is hurtful to see that we have now earned these boos that that are echoed in our neighbors, from our neighbors to the north, understandably so. And in terms of campaigning in that district, I'm going to be very involved. And however my fellow partners in the 21st district want to utilize my help, we're anxious to do so. And working with the candidates.
Ladies and gentlemen, believe it or not, time is up. But this is not over, because democracy has to be active. Are you sure? I got permission for 2 more. All right. 549-0403, 549-0403, and 549-0474. 549-0474. Anybody? Yes, ma'am.
Hello. Hi. I wanted to thank you for showing your support for the people of Palestine. But I wanted to, in light of the ceasefire ending 2 weeks ago, and the fact that Israel has not allowed any aid into Gaza for the last 2 weeks, what are you going to do about it? Are you going to stop? Are you going to do anything to stop U.S. military aid to Israel? Because in the past, you voted for military aid to Israel. Have you changed your stance? And are you going to do things that protect our tax dollars and protect people internationally like you just said you were going to do for us?
Well, I think that all efforts to make certain that humanitarian aid is realized and shared as intended can be made in the House. These resolutions will have to be approved and brought to the floor, and we will push the leadership.
Is Donald Trump waiting for approval? The rules have changed. The rules have changed. You're not going to fight fascism by following the rules.
I just want to let everybody know, these are the last 2 questions. The Congressman is going to be here after the public questions, so you can all come and have one with the Congressman. Sir.
Before I ask my question, I'd like to, before I ask my question, I'd like to know that I agree with almost everything you've said tonight. My question is a very difficult one. We would not be having these problems if we had won the election, but we didn't. Why didn't we? What have we learned from that? What are we doing about it? And what are we changing in any way? What are we doing so that we don't lose the next election?
Well, I think what we've learned from the election, and a number of us have talked about this in Washington, in our respective districts, there are a lot of people sharing information that guided them with their vote or to stay home. When 19 million people stay home, it's a concern. I know that a candidate, a friend who was running for his 7th term, got more votes than he ever had before, and he lost. And he believed there were a lot of misinformed voters that came out in great numbers. So what we've learned, I think, is that was a great effort in the last month or month and a half of misinformation and disinformation. That's my hunch. I can't prove it, but from what I hear, people had certain statistics shared with them and different statements that were inaccurate that determined their vote. And so I think we have learned that we have to be much better at the technology, to have that info flow out there, and to encourage people to verify, not just take information shared, but verify that information so that their vote indeed is not swayed by misinformation or disinformation.
With all due respect,
I think there are a number of people emerging. You know, we're in a post-election where, you know, and we don't have the majorities in either house. So I think there are people emerging that will be leading voices for the party.
in all due respect, I don't think it's a communication issue or a technological issue. I think it might be something to do with the identity of the Democratic Party, how you present yourself, and where is it going? What are you going to do to clarify or either perpetuate the message we sent out? Lost. Why did that happen? I don't think it's just technology. I think it's more fundamental than that. And I think it requires some introspection, and I'd like to know if you've done any of that and what it might be you're doing.
I think there's certainly a lot of post-election analysis that's being done. And, you know, honing the message, making certain that some of the priorities of this party that have always been there just need to be stated much more clearly and boldly. Welcome.
We know that Trump is an existential threat. I'm just summarizing here. I'm questioning whether the midterms may even happen. Call me Jeremiah. And what I'm concerned about is that we do not seem to have any consistent message. We need a message, and we need a simple message repeated 24/7. That message needs to start yesterday. What is the message tonight? We need a simple message, and we need it now, and it needs to be nice and simple. Think about some of the things that the others have done. Make America great again. Let me tell you, we need something to hang our hats on, and we will get out there in March. Well, to some extent.
Thank you. It is great advice. And, you know, I think, again, there's a lot of soul searching going on and a lot of analysis of that election, and we'll go forward with a message that I think will resonate. And that is part of and parcel to this party and its roots. I think, you know, we've been a party of great advancement, of fighting for working families, of fighting for job creation, and addressing climate change, and being a supporter to our allies across the world. There's a message there that has to be bold and much more pronounced.
It's all, you need to simplify. Make it simple so everyone can resonate to it. Very simple.
Thank you. One more question.
Half a question, half a request. You haven't spoken much yet about calling on the people for direct action. With the President and his allies in Congress so clearly against the Constitution and the rule of law, what makes you think there will be midterms or any other elections if you don't call on
I didn't hear the last part of your question.
If you don't call upon us for direct action, what makes you think there will be midterms or that they'll abide by the results?
Well, look, I think there is a call to action. I think it's people raising their voices, demanding answers of this administration. You know, we're in the same difficult point in this process as you are. You know, the whole you know, community of voters out there are relying on having the majority function according to the Constitution and to exert rule of law. We can only do so much. We're building that case, but you know, they held the cards in their hand, and we're trying every which way to raise the public sentiment and to go to the judicial branch and make things happen through various cases that we're filing, and attempting to do town halls and making certain that the message is out about what's happening. I think that's important in the process.
And I think that's a good segue for a closing remark. And I'm going to ask the Congressman to do closing remarks, and he'll be around still for each one of you.
Congressman, will you march with us in D.C. on April 5th? Will you be there? Will you be there? We have 50 organizations ready to go. We are going to be there. Trump should expect us.
When is the march? April 5th?
April 5th, D.C. We're bringing thousands of people in. We will be there. We need you. We need you that day. This is the moment. This is the moment.
What day of the week is it?
It's a Saturday. You're not doing anything. I'm not doing anything. April 5th, 50-51. We support this. Women's March. We support this. We support this. We're not taking any prisoners. This is the moment. This is it. Come your friends. Come your family. Be in D.C. on April 5th. I'm not fucking around. We're going to get this done. Let's go.
Thank you so much. I will check myself. I hope I can be there. I hope I can be there. I just love joining with all of you. Thank you everyone for your participation this evening. I'm in the fight with you. I support you. I hear your concern. I share your frustration. Thank you for joining us tonight. Let's go out and make a big victory possible against these ungodly cuts and the services that are denied. Thank you one and all.